PS Vita versus Nintendo 3DS. Hello there, this is TheReviewSpace, and in this video I want to give an update, late 2014, regarding the comparison, the 8th gen handheld portable system wars against the 3DS going up versus the PS Vita. So which of these handheld portable systems is basically what's going on? What's up with the sales? Which system is selling better, and which system has higher reviewed games? It's been a while since I've talked about and made a video specifically about these handheld systems. So here we go, PS Vita versus Nintendo 3DS 2014 update. Let's begin with the sales of each individual system. Let's start it off with the PlayStation Vita. The PS Vita is currently at 9.0 million. It has a 16.5% of the market share in terms of the, comparing it against the 3DS. 16.5%, 9 million PS Vita sold. This is according to VGCharts.com, by the way. All these stats are going to be from VGCharts.com. At least when it comes to the sales, Vita has only about 9 million. Alright, and the PS Vita came out in late 2011, around December 2011 in Japan, and around February in 2012. So it's been out for a solid, I guess, going on 3 years, but closer to 3 years. 2012, 2013, and 2014, of course. So yeah, solid nearly 3 years. And that's the PS Vita, man. I mean, the Vita has been out. It's been released. I mean, it's been, we've seen games come out for it, and we've seen this handheld release certain titles, but it only has 9 million sales. And for 3 years, that's about, 3 million each year. So it's not exactly a massive amount of sales on a yearly basis compared to its competition. Moving on to the 3DS, let's take a look at the 3DS sales. 45.7 million. The 3DS has 45.7 million. It has 83.5% of the market share compared to the PS Vita. And talk about utter domination. Things haven't changed. I remember talking about the Vita maybe about a couple of years ago, maybe late 2012 or early 2013, and it was getting destroyed back then too. I remember it was like 47-1 the lead of the 3DS in sales compared to the Vita. And if you take a look at the stats, it's 45.7 million compared to a 9.0 million. 9 million of the PS Vita sales. Over 83% market share compared to 16% market share. That is an absolute domination. The 3DS is rocking. It sold more units, it sold more handhelds, and way more people played 3DS compared to the PS Vita. The 3DS is rocking sales. So it's pretty obvious which system, in terms of sales, is in the lead, and which one is winning. But just because you've sold more, you've sold more units, doesn't mean that you're automatically superior. It doesn't automatically make you better. Let's take a look at the actual freaking scores of the the Metacritic scores regarding the sales. By the way, the 3DS has been out since, when did the 3DS drop? Early 2011? Around like February, March, around that time, 2011. So about a year head start compared to the 3DS. But even so, you would think that if the Vita was that much of a threat, it would have sold and caught up and sold even more compared to the 3DS. But taking a look now at the actual scores, though, the Metacritic scores for both handhelds started off with the PS Vita. Let's see, there's a bunch in the 90s, there's only 3 actually. Persona 4 Golden has a 93, Fez has a 91, Velocity 2X has a 90, and then everything else. It's like Limbo has an 89, Spelunky, Rayman Origins, Machinarium, Little Big Planet PS Vita, Guacamelee, Rayman Legends, and Tearaway. And all of these are in the high 80s, like 88, 89, 87. I noticed that there's only one game that came out in this year for the Vita that reached the top, this top list, like the top 10, whatever, top 12, top 13. Fez. Fez came out in March 25th, 2014 for the PS Vita. I don't even think Fez is a brand new game. Like, it was new for the Vita when it came out on the Vita, but I don't think it was... well, Velocity 2X as well, my bad, Velocity 2X. So that's two games, Fez and Velocity 2X, both coming out in 2014. And those are the only two games this year that made the top, 12, top 13 games? The closest would be Pixel Junk Shooter Ultimate, which has an 87. It's a little further down the list. And the Swapper, which came out in August 2014, the Swapper. And what else? Rogue Legacy has an 85, came out in July 2014. Aside from that, there's really not much, brand new games and big names coming out for the PS Vita. And this is really sad. This is really you expect a lot more titles, expect a lot more games that came out in the past year, but there's really not that many. Persona 4 Golden, that was pretty much 2 years ago, November 2012, when that came out on the PS Vita. I can't believe it, and that's still the #1 game. Has a 93 and a 9.3 user score, those are very high scores. And everything else is either some sort of like a freaking port. You got Rayman Origins in there, 88 out of 100. Came out in early 2012 for the PS Vita. Machinarium, yeah. Little Big Planet. Rayman Legends. Mortal Kombat, it's got a Mortal Kombat game, which didn't Mortal Kombat originally come out in, around, I think, 2011? As an 85. So it does have a few. Minecraft has an 84 out of 100 on the PS Vita. Alright, so obviously, as you can hear, basically the Vita just doesn't have a lot of new games, and it has a few games here and there that might be worth checking out, but it doesn't have a massive library of must-have titles that you gotta play and that you gotta own, and that's the biggest weakness of the PS Vita, I think. Now you compare that to the 3DS. Let's take a look at the 3DS library and its set of games. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D has a 94. Cave Story has a 93. Fire Emblem Awakening has a 92. Shovel Knight has a 92. Zelda A Link Between Worlds has a 91. Mario 3D Land has a 90. Pushmo has a 90. And those are the ones in the 90s. So quite a bit more games in the 90s rated high in the 90s. And then you got a lot of 80s as well, faltering a little bit with, Colors 3D, Zero Escape, Pokemon Y, Animal Crossing New Leaf, Rage of the Gladiator, Pokemon X, Crashmo, Dark Moon, Street Fighter 4 3D Edition, Bravely Default, Smash Bros 3DS. These all range between 89, 88, 87, 86, and 85. Even Mario Kart has a 85. Mario Kart 7. Etrian Odyssey 4 has an 84. Kid Icarus has an 83, and so on and so forth. And everything else is a lower 80s and below. So just judging by its freaking scores, the 3DS does have technically more highly reviewed games compared to the competition, compared to the Vita. Its newest games in the top 10 I can see is Shovel Knight, which has it's got a 92 and it came out in June 2014. And that's I mean, it's more comparable, I guess, in terms of like making the top 10, the top 15 games. The games are older, you know, they came out like a couple of years ago, 2011, 2012, 2013. They're a little bit older, so it's harder to crack the top 10. Kind of like with, you know, the same thing with the Vita. It's actually kind of comparable in terms of its best games are older games. And 2014, it's not exactly like a hot year for any of the systems anyway. But still, I mean, if you take a look at this variety in the 3DS, because I try to compare it with the past. I try to also compare it with what happened in the last generation. I am a proud supporter of the PSP. I prefer the PSP way more than the DS, actually. I mean, I'd rather have 10 PSPs than 100 DS systems. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather have way more PSP games and enjoy the heck out of that than have like 1,000 3DS games. I prefer the PSP Sony brand. I prefer its games, its presentation, its style, the characters, you know. With the 3DS against the PS Vita, it's a little bit closer, you know, the competition is a little bit closer. I'm still kind of leaning towards the Sony style. I love fighting games. I'm all about fighting games. That's like one of my favorite genres. It's gotta be my #1 favorite genre. If I had to choose, if I was forced to pick a single genre in my entire life, I'd probably pick fighting games. One-on-one fighters, whether it's, you know, Street Fighter or Tekken or Mortal Kombat or Killer Instinct or Soul Calibur. I loved all of it, you know, I like all that shit. But, so it's kind of obvious why I'd pick, you know, the PSP over the DS. The PSP just has way more quality fighting games compared to the Nintendo DS. But as far as the 3DS is concerned, compared against the PS Vita, it's kind of a mixed bag. The 3DS has a few games here. It's got the Street Fighter 4. It's got Smash Bros. You know, so there's a few titles. I believe it has a Tekken game too, like somewhere in there. Tekken on the 3DS. I think it has a Dead or Alive as well. There's a DOA game. So there's a few titles on the damn Dimensions, Dead or Alive Dimensions. There's a few titles on the damn 3DS that you know, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of, you know, it grabs your attention a little bit. And then you compare that to the PS Vita. What does the Vita have that is a fighting game classic? Do they have any amazing stuff? Even just a, you know, a pretty decent fighter. You know, they got Mortal Kombat. I believe they have Street Fighter Cross Tekken. They had that. Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So they do have a few titles here and there, but nothing that I can't get on a frickin' PS3, you know. The PS Vita against the 3DS. Which one is the better system? Which one is the one that you should get? I know it's all about, you know, it's objective and it's personal preference. This isn't as easy as when I chose the Wii U over the Xbox One, or the PS4 over the Xbox One. And it's not that defining, you know, with the exception of the sales. Obviously, if you're a Nintendo mark and you're more into Nintendo stuff like Pokemon and stuff like that, you're gonna want to choose the 3DS. You know, that's obviously has the Nintendo exclusives. But for somebody more like me, where I like the Sony stuff, I like fighting games, I like certain titles, I like console type multi-plats, you know, like Assassin's Creed and games like that. On the handheld, I like the idea of that. And some, you know, strange little games here and there that are kind of unique. You know, Hotline Miami, you know, Persona 4 Golden, you know, certain titles that grab your attention. Minecraft on a freaking handheld. You know, the Vita does have its certain games that stand out. You know, Child of Light. There's a, you know, Blaze Blue, Continuum Shift on PS Vita. Metal Gear Solid HD Collection. There's a few damn games that are kind of interesting as well for the damn PS Vita. So that's a tough one. You know, I can't. It's almost like a mix. Like you gotta have both in order to fully enjoy handheld gaming of the 8th gen. You know, it's not like, okay, you know, all you need is one handheld. You know, you just gotta have one. I will say I do like the advanced specs of the Vita. I mean, it's been out for a few years now. You know what I mean? It's been out for a solid almost 3 years, and this PS Vita, it still looks pretty good. But I mean, it's kind of like a handheld PlayStation 3 at this point. You know, it's kind of like, you know, in another 5-6 years, the Vita is definitely gonna look fairly outdated and really fall behind. You know. But the 3DS is just, it's definitely the weaker handheld in terms of its specs, in terms of its capabilities, and so I'm not even sure if I want to play kind of like, it's basically a handheld GameCube PS2 type of thing, you know. The graphics aren't that amazing. It looks like fucking 6th generation graphics. So that's one of my main issues. Again, this is Nintendo's fault. You know, they always stay a generation behind, and that's the problem, I think, with the 3DS. So it's definitely, both are definitely, I think, worth checking out. I think you gotta get both in order to fully appreciate the handheld experience of the modern era.
Thanks for watching The Review Space, the most underrated channel on YouTube. For more videos, check out youtube.com/TheReviewSpace.